Well, it's been a while, but he's back. Anthony Scaramucci, former White House communications director for about 10 days under Donald Trump, also founder of Skybridge. So great to have you back on.
You jipped me out of that last day, David. I mean, it was, that was a big day for me. That's the day I got fired.
The 11th
Even
day.
even Trump says 11 days when he's like
Fair.
attacking me on Twitter or Truth Social. He does say 11,
He
but
he
that's
gives
fine.
you
It's good. It's
that
good to
11th
see
day.
you. Congratulations on your work and your podcast. And
Thank you.
I think the last time I saw you was the last election cycle. So here we are again. And Donald Trump is back in our midst. And so this is an existential danger that hopefully the society will wake up to. It's going to be a very close election.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, are you still a Republican? Are you a conservative guy?
Well, I've been a lifelong conservative, and but I'm a New Yorker. So, I mean, when you say conservative, it's different definitionally to so many different people. I'm a liberal when it comes to policy of choice. It's almost like libertarianism. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I don't care what you decide to do in your private life. I believe that women should have reproductive freedom. It's their body. They should make a choice for themselves. It could be different from my choice, but it's their choice. That's libertarianism. But as a person, when you say conservative, I'm not a right Christian conservative. I don't believe in that level of orthodoxy, and I certainly don't want to impose my life on anyone else's life. But if you said to me, do I want there to be more fiscal conservatism? I do. I think we're out of control with the way we're spending our money. I think we're leaving too much debt to our children. Even liberals, I would imagine, are starting to think that now. And by the way, both parties should be indicted for this because under Donald Trump, we spent $8 trillion in deficit spending. So this is no longer
Yep.
either party is in the wrong on this, and in my opinion. But yes, if you ticked off 25 issues, I would imagine you and I probably agree on a lot of them.
I was reviewing our conversation previously, and I think you can speak to something I'm very curious about with regard to JD Vance and his wife, Usha Vance, which is in our last interview, you talked about how when you start to get a taste for being adjacent to power, and certainly the president of the United States is one of those emblems of power, sometimes you start to either change your views or convince yourself that maybe you're not so far apart from where the boss is. Or I think you know where I'm going with this, which is that
No, no,
JD
no, I
Vance and
don't.
his
Well, you
wife.
said you said sometimes, and that's a little bit of a euphemism. And so it's not sometimes, it's always.
Always
It's
you
the
think,
it's
well,
the
so
it,
then
it's the rare person that doesn't do that. And I think in our conversation last time, if I remember correctly, what I said to you is I allowed my ego to take control of my decision making, and I allowed my
mm,
pride. And so, yeah, I wanted to work in the Oval Office. I wanted to fly on Air Force One. Obviously, I wanted to be, and you delude yourself too. Your self delusion says, "Well, I'm here to serve the people. I'm here to do a good job for the people." But ultimately, if you're with the wrong type of leaders, you get sucked in, and then the goalposts get moved on you. And then if you're not strong enough, and frankly, most people are not, they will also move alongside of the goalposts. And so, I think the good news for me is the universe probably saved me.
hmm.
My firing after 11 short days was a big wake up call for me intellectually. I think it made me more humble and more psychologically minded. But I'll say something that you'll probably think doesn't reflect well on me, but this is the truth. I was stood as a supporter to Donald Trump after my firing. I didn't want to be that baby, that whining baby. Oh, he got fired. Now he's a sore loser. And
Right.
so I stood before the president. I tried to support him. It took 2 years before I renounced my support. It just became every bridge was another bridge too far. Every goalpost was a movement outside of the stadium. And so finally, in August of 2019, 2 years after my firing, I said, geez, I'm really very sorry. This it just doesn't work. It's not common sense anymore. This is very damaging to the society. And then, of course, he goes on to lose that election. He mishandles the COVID crisis, goes on to lose the election, but then he foments an insurrection. I think it's very important for people to understand that there's been a lot of gaslighting on this issue. The courts now have decided that they're very partisan, at least the many of these judges, and so they're going to side with Mr. Trump, even though he hasn't done the right thing. and isn't really representing America the way I think America should be represented. He's probably the most anti-American presidential candidate in our history. He has an enemies list. I'm just disappointed, David, I'm not higher up on the list. I had lunch with Mark Esper and Mark Milley, two of my very close friends, and said, geez, how are you guys in the top 10? I'm only like 48. I gotta work harder at this. Just imagine that I'm saying that to you. We're living in America, the longest republic, the longest representative democracy attached to a republic, and yet we have one of the presidential candidates, and by the way, the poly market, the predictive market has him at a 60% chance of regaining the presidency. Well, he's got an enemies list and he's currying favor with dictators, and he wants to renounce the post-World War II order, and he threatens our allies, and he congratulates Vladimir Putin. This is the guy that we're putting up to represent America. And so listen, I have to speak out about that. I'm a patriot first, partisan second. It costs me. It hurts my business. I get lit up by haters. I get death threats. There's a whole series of different things that go on for me and my family as a result of my outspokenness. But I made a mistake in 2016. I have to own that mistake. If you haven't made one and you're listening to David's podcast, you can throw a stone at me. But if you have made one, hopefully you're honest about it, and you can reconcile the mistakes that you've made and try to make the things right that you got wrong.
So on Vance and his wife, I struggle to believe they've really changed their views from what was documented.
Yeah, no,
America's Hitler, terrible, don't like them, all of those different things.
no,
Is your opinion that they are suffering from the same thing you suffered from?
yeah, worse, worse. They're in way deeper. He's in a way higher profile position. They have to be aghast at what Donald Trump represents. The one problem with him is that he's tied to Chuck Yarvin, and I don't know if you know who that is, but
No.
yeah, you should look him up, and you should have your viewers and listeners look him up. So he is a philosopher that the Silicon Valley billionaires follow. So he has several acolytes, including J.D. Vance and people like Peter Thiel. And you can see interviews of Peter Thiel saying that the democracy has outlived its usefulness. And so what Yarvin is basically suggesting is that we can no longer govern as a democracy. It's too messy. So we need these brilliant aristocrats to take over the government and to govern on behalf of the people. This is a right out of The Remains of the Day. If you remember the scene with Anthony Hopkins, he's there as a dutiful butler. The aristocrat is asking him technical questions about the government. He says he doesn't know the answer. And then very huffily and arrogantly, the aristocrat says, see, the common man has no ability to help us govern. And so this is the whole Yarvin, J.D. Vance, Peter Thiel thing. So the weird thing about all this is Donald Trump is a useful idiot for these people. He's a orange wrecking ball. He's a great messenger, but they're coming in underneath him very well organized. There's a narco right Christian group organizing around Project 2025. There's the J.D. Vance Silicon Valley group that really would like to liquidate the checks and balances in the system, strengthen the executive branch, and frankly, end the democracy. They talk as follows: I am looking forward to a post-constitutional America. And so, if you're not close enough to this thing and you don't know who these people are, you'll miss this. So you got to get close to it, because Trump, yeah, he's not really that ideological. He's about attention and money and fame and notoriety. He doesn't really care about governing. He just wants to win, to give a big FU to his haters. But these people are serious. They're coming in. They want to transform the court. They want to liquidate the different branches of the government, strengthen the executive branch. They want to make your democracy obsolete. They don't like black and brown people. I mean, there's just, the messaging is this: wait a minute, whites are running things. Yes, they are. Okay, we'll have a democracy. Well, hold on a second. There are black and brown people that may, from a demographic, eclipse the whites. Yes, that could happen. So does that mean black and brown people could run the country? Yes, it does. Okay, well, we don't want a democracy then anymore. We would like to switch the rules. And so that is so far away from what Abraham Lincoln said about our society. And if you go back to the Lincoln Douglas debates, one of the more famous things that Lincoln said, not the Gettysburg Address, but he was talking about governing and self-governing. And he said, there's no man in the world, and he did use the word man, so we're going to stay with that pronoun, but there's no man in the world that is worthy of governing another man without his permission. Okay, now we can say there's no man or woman that's not worthy of governing another without his permission. And the point was that whether you like the democracy or don't like the democracy, that is the best that we can do on earth. It's what Churchill said. It's a terrible system of government until you compare it to all the other systems. And Lincoln said something else, which I hope comes true on November the 5th, 2024. Lincoln said the American people are not dumb. Peter Thiel thinks that. Obviously, J.D. Vance thinks that. But what the American people are, Lincoln said, they have a very good nose. They can smell a rotting cadaver in their basement, was the exact quote that he used in that debate. And so they know when something bad is happening. And so hopefully now the majority of us, and hopefully the majority of us in certain swing states will say, you know what, Trump and the return to Trumpism is a bridge too far. Let's defeat Trumpism and give this opportunity for a center-right movement, formerly known as the Republican Party, to rebuild. If Trump wins, I will be catastrophic because they'll start using the Project 2025 playbook to change the system and to make it very, very difficult for people, particularly people who may have alternative lifestyles or people that, you and I want them to live peacefully and happily in America, but these anarcho-Christians don't. They want to force or impose their lifestyle on them.
Thinking a little more tactically about what's going on, I've heard you mention that it would be a disaster for Trump not to debate Vice President Kamala Harris. I tend to agree in the sense that if he thought it would benefit him, I think he would be much more willing to do it. And he seems to be making the calculation that the debate won't go well. But you seem to be making the meta point that not debating more broadly also would be a bad idea. Tell me about
100%.
that.
So let me tell you how the son of a bitch thinks. I'm sorry to curse on your podcast, but
It's allowed now.
Okay, he wants attention. He's in the summer doldrums. She's getting all the attention. She's stealing his thunder.
Yep.
She needs more media advocates. We could discuss that if you ask me what I think she needs right now. But she's got the media behind her, not Fox, but the general media. And so it's really bumming him out. So he wants attention. So the way to get CNN to talk about him, MSNBC to talk about him, and again, negative or positive doesn't matter, David. It's just I got to be out there. I'm not going to debate her under any circumstances unless it's on Fox. And so, he's going to debate her. And by the way, she may end up debating him on Fox because she can handle Brett Baer and Martha McCallum. They're decent journalists, and they're going to play it up the middle the way CNN did on the last debate. They have to. Rupert Murdoch knows that. And so she may end up debating him on Fox, frankly, because if I were her, I would say anytime, anywhere. Is that where you want to go? Okay, let's go there. He has to debate her. I just telling you right now, come September, he doesn't debate her. It's a self-emasculation that him and his hyper-masculine movement, they wouldn't be able to handle, okay?
In other words, even if he says, I have no reason to because I'm winning and she wasn't chosen, it was Biden, it will come off as though he's just afraid.
God. Oh, my God. So wait a minute. There was a black woman running for president, and you didn't have the stomach, you chicken shit coward bastard. And they will run one ad after the next that this chicken shit who had bone spurs, didn't go to the wars, derided our veterans, is now up against the first African-American woman nominee for the Democratic Party, and he is too chicken shit to debate her. No, that would annihilate him. And by the way, if the Democrats were smart strategically, they could win over a lot of independents with that, okay? And he's flailing now because he's saying things like she turned black. He was doing everything he could to come as close to using the N-word at the NABJ without actually using it, this racist prick, right? So he's now realizing, wait a minute, that's not working. And I explained this on my podcast, The Rest is Politics US. It's not working because 20.2 million baby boomers have died since the 2016 election where he had some success. 40 million Generation Xers have risen into the voting scrolls since
Right.
2016. And so they don't like it. You know what? I don't like it. And by the way, you calling her a DA hire, let me tell you something. She's a black woman from California. She became a DA, a attorney general, a senator, and a vice president. You know how hard that is for a black woman in this society to do those things? It's pretty far from a DEI thing. So you keep saying that, no problem. We're going to get in line and we'll wait 12 hours without water and we're going to vote her in. Okay, so you keep talking like that and you keep acting like that. You watch the women of this country and suburban women, even conservative suburban women, dropping him like a hot potato. So he's flailing right now. He's got the verbal Rubik's Cube out. He's trying to find the right messaging and the right strategy to handle her. And he's blowing a racist dog whistle, which is not going to work. But she's also mishandling certain things as well.
So that's the last thing I
She's
want to
got to
ask
get
you
a
about.
narrative going on her
Yeah,
campaign. This
I know
can't be
you've
a
got to
choice
run.
election, him and her. She's got to explain to people what she wants to do.
I know you've got to run, so I'll make that the last thing. What is the Harris campaign doing right so far, and what are they doing wrong?
Well, right so far, no unforced errors. I think the fact she really hasn't met with the media yet is good for her. She's coalescing her delegates and she's got her nominee now, whether you like him or dislike him. I don't think it matters much. This is a Harris-Trump situation. Waltz does not hurt her, in my opinion. There are people on the right that think he's too progressive. It really doesn't matter. JD Vance is hurting Trump. He has net negative ratings. He's dragging down Trump.
Yeah.
Trump would love to replace him. I don't know if he will because it makes him look bad that he made a bad decision, so he probably won't. But he just likes him. And trust me, if he wins, he's going to have a terrible relationship with JD Vance. I guarantee that. Okay, but what she's doing wrong, and again, I want her to win, and I have publicly endorsed her, but I'm just telling you what I think she's doing wrong. They don't have a narrative yet. This cannot be a choice election. When Senator Kerry made it a choice election, Bush or me, the American public went with Bush.
Yeah.
Okay, they're going to go with Trump if you make this a Trump-Harris choice. It's a personality choice. Can't be that. She has to have a narrative. Barack Obama had a narrative. It has to be an economic narrative. It has to be, okay, here's what we're doing when I'm elected. Here are the 10 platform points. Okay, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm contrasted from him. It's not just our personalities, and it's not just that I'm a black woman and he's a white racist cracker. This is actually what I'm going to do. And if it's moderate enough and it's centrist enough, she'll win the independents and she'll win the election. And so that's where we are right now. I think it's even. It's a close election right now. It shouldn't be. Can't have a fascist wannabe be the president of the United States if you want to preserve the United States. But that's where we are right now. We'll see, David. But it's always a pleasure to be on your podcast. It's a very famous podcast. and congratulations on everything that you're doing.
Anthony Scaramucci, always great having you on. I know you're a busy guy. I appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate being here and I wish you the best.